Welcome to Mind Your Business, where we work to fortify your mind to withstand the daily onslaught of noise and challenges. I'm your host, Steve Wagner, and let me ask you something today. Think about the last time something went wrong. Maybe it was the deal fell apart, a plan that completely unraveled, a conversation that went sideways, even a project that hit a wall so hard you didn't even know you were going to get back up. Now, in that moment, what was your first instinct? Was it frustration? Were you angry? Did you feel like the universe had personally decided to work against you? Most of us respond to obstacles the same way. We treat them like enemies, things to be defeated, avoided, or survived. But what if framing is exactly backwards? Today, we're unpacking one of the most quietly powerful ideas I've come across. And it's a saying that goes like this: obstacles are not your enemy. They are your instructor. Stay with me, because by the end of this episode, I want you to look at the biggest current challenge completely different. Now, where does this idea come from? Now, this isn't just a feel-good motivational quote, though I admit it sounds a little bit like one. The idea has a deep philosophical roots, and I think understanding where it comes from gives a lot of weight. The ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, built an entire philosophy around this concept. Marcus Aurelius, who was literally the most powerful man in the world for almost 2 decades, wrote in his private journal and what is now called Meditations, something that has echoed through the centuries. And he says, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Now think about that. What stands in the way becomes the way, not despite the obstacle, but because of it. The Stoics believe that every external event is neutral. It's our interpretation that makes it good or bad. And when something hard happens, when the obstacle appears, it's not the universe punishing you, it's the universe teaching you. Now, fast forward to the 20th century. Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote about how even in the most horrifying circumstances imaginable, human beings have the freedom to choose their response. He watched people in the camps finding meaning, preserve dignity, and maintain their humanity under conditions that had no right to allow for any of that. His conclusion: the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. That's not weakness talking. That's one of the most hard-won philosophical positions in human history. So when we say obstacles are instructors, we're not talking about toxic positivity. We're not saying everything happens for a reason in some breezy, dismissive way. We're talking about a disciplined, deliberate practice of extracting value from difficulty. So what exactly is obstacle teaching? Let's get specific, because I think this is where most conversations stop short. They tell you to embrace the struggle without telling you what to do with it. Here's what I found obstacles tend to reveal, and I want you to think about this in the context of whatever challenge you're trying to overcome right now. Lesson 1, where your assumptions were wrong. Obstacles almost always appear where we made assumptions that turned out to be untrue. You assumed the client would say yes. You assumed the process would work. You assumed the person was aligned with you. The obstacle isn't cruelty, it's a correction. It's pointing a flashlight directly at the place where your mental model didn't match reality. This is invaluable information. The most successful people I've ever spoken with will tell you that their biggest failures were the things that most precisely calibrated their judgment. Lesson 2, what you actually value. Here's something interesting. Obstacles have a way of burning away what doesn't matter. Things get genuinely hard, you find out pretty quickly what you actually are willing to fight for. Entrepreneurs talk about this constantly. You think you want to build a company until it nearly kills you, and then you find out whether you actually want it, whether you just like the idea of wanting it. The obstacle separates the genuine from the performative. Lesson 3, a capability you haven't built yet. Sometimes an obstacle is simply telling you you don't have this skill yet. It's not judgment, it's fact, a gap in the map. And this is so much more useful than sailing blindly through territory you didn't know you were missing. Now, I talked to a business owner recently who spent 2 years frustrated by cash flow problems. When she finally stopped fighting the obstacle and started studying it, and she realized she had a brilliant operational mind and almost no financial literacy. The obstacle wasn't attacking her, it was pointing her towards exactly the skill she needed to build to get to the next level. Lesson 4: what's your resilience threshold? You don't know what you can handle until you handle it. Full stop. And each time you navigate a hard thing, your threshold rises. What would have broken you 2 years ago might not even touch you today. What you went through. The obstacle isn't teaching you about the external world, it's teaching you about yourself. Now, we're talking about reframing the word enemy to instructor. Let's talk about what exactly changes when you make this mental shift, because the word reframe gets thrown around a lot, and I want to be precise about what it actually does. When you treat an obstacle as an enemy, your nervous system responds accordingly. You go into fight or flight, your thinking narrows, you become reactive, you're focused on escape, not learning. You want it to be over. And when you treat an obstacle as an instructor, something happens. The threat response dampens, curiosity activates. You start asking questions instead of just reacting. You get curious about the obstacle rather than just trying to outlast it. This is not just psychology, there's actual neuroscience in here. When you were in the threat state, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for complex reasoning, long-term thinking, creativity, essentially goes offline. We're running on autopilot, on instinct. But when you introduce curiosity, when you ask, what is this teaching me? You re-engage the prefrontal cortex. We get smarter, not just tougher. There's a question I've started asking myself every time I hit a wall, and I want to offer it to you. What would I need to believe about the situation to find it useful? It's not fake, and it's not delusional, it's useful. Because useful is the bridge between the obstacle you're fighting and the lesson you're supposed to be learning. Now, how do we actually really do this? Let's get down to earth here, because philosophy without practice is just entertainment. Here's the 3-step process I want you to try the next time you hit an obstacle. And I mean next time, not someday when I'm dealing with something big. Step 1, name the obstacle precisely, not vaguely, specifically. Things aren't going well. It's not an obstacle. It's a mood. The actual obstacle might be, I've lost 3 clients in 2 months. I don't understand why. Or, I can't seem to delegate without everything going sideways. Precision matters because vague obstacles can't be learned from. A precise obstacle can be examined. So start by writing it down, one specific sentence. Now, step 2, ask the instructor 3 questions. Question 1, what's the assumption of mind does this obstacle challenge? Look for the place where you are operating on a belief rather than evidence. Question 2, what's the capability does navigating this obstacle require I don't currently have at full strength? Be honest, this isn't self-criticism, it's reconnaissance. Question 3, who has faced this obstacle before and what did they learn? Because you are almost certainly not the first person to stand in this exact spot. Someone has been here. Someone has made it through. What did they do to figure it out? Now, step 3, you need to extract a specific action. Now, this lesson from the instructor isn't complete until it changes your behavior. So after you ask those questions, you need one concrete action. What will you do differently because of this obstacle? Not a vague intention, not I'll be more careful, a specific, doable action, like read this book, have this conversation, build this system, hire this skill, practice this habit. The action is how the obstacle stops repeating itself. Now, I want to close with something a little bigger. One thing that strikes me most about people I admire in business and in leadership and in life, they seem to have a fundamentally different relationship with difficulty than most of us do. It's not that they don't feel it, they feel it. They're not robots. They seem to carry obstacles differently, lighter somehow. And I think because over time, they've accumulated enough evidence that the obstacle is never the end of the story, it's only a chapter. And the chapter always contains something worth knowing. The accumulation of experience of obstacles met and studied and navigated, it compounds, just like financial capital. Every hard thing you go through, if you engage with it instead of to survive it, it deposits something into your wisdom account, your judgment, your resilience, your capacity. And the person you are on the other side of a real obstacle is genuinely not the same person you walked into it. You are changed by it. The only question is whether you've changed by it consciously, whether you extracted the lesson, or whether you just absorbed the damage and moved on. The saying goes, obstacles are not your enemy, they're your instructor. And instructors, by definition, are trying to make you better. They're not there to humiliate you or break you. They are there to develop you into something you couldn't have become without going through the difficulty. So next time the obstacles appear, and it will appear, I want you to try something different. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? What is this trying to teach me? One question closes you down, the other opens you up. All right, that's our episode of Mind Your Business. And if this resonated with you, I'd love to know the obstacle you're currently sitting with and what you might be trying to teach you. Send me a message, leave me a review, share it with someone in the middle of a hard thing right now. Because sometimes the best gift you can give someone isn't advice, it's a new way of looking at what they're going through. Take care of yourselves, keep learning, and remember, the wall isn't the end of the road, it's the classroom. And keep your mindset strong.